Morning, everybody. I'll call the meeting to order. We'll probably have a few people joining us, hopefully, as we roll, but in the interest of time, we can get going. Wes, would you like to take roll, please?
Sure. Chair Hoppoff.
Here.
Dylan, on behalf of the governor.
Here.
Superintendent Arntzen. Commissioner Esau.
Here.
Shanda Hermanson.
Here.
Commissioner McGinley. Dean Bentley. Adam Gilbertson.
Here.
And David Smith.
Here.
Thank you. We have 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the 11. So we have a quorum.
Perfect. Thanks, Wes. So Wes had mailed out the agenda ahead of time. Could I get a motion approving or denying the motion or the agenda, please?
So moved.
Okay, thanks, Adam. Second?
Second.
Right. Thanks, Jan. Been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. Are there any further comments or discussion? All those in favor of approving the motion as stated, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Agenda passes.
And Dean Bentley has joined.
Perfect. Morning, Dean. The next on the agenda is public comment. Do we have any public comment as we get started this morning? Okay. Hearing none, we'll ask for that again at the end of the meeting. Wes also sent out the minutes from the last meeting. I would entertain a motion to either approve, deny, or amend those minutes.
I will make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Adam. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Laurie. Moved and seconded to approve the meetings of the last minutes of the last meeting. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Meeting minutes pass. Next on the agenda is the WIOA Youth Program Waiver submission to USDOL. And Wes, I'll turn that over to you.
Sure. So we've gone over this a number of times, and this is the official portion of it. So these were up for public comment for well over a month. They went out on February 10th, and they were over with on March 10th, but they've still remained up. The only public comment we did receive was actually from Superintendent Arntzen. She sent kind of a public comment. She sent a letter of support for the waivers, so I will include that in on the waiver submission process. Her letter was specifically in support of increasing the in-school youth opportunity with the percentages. And so within those, I'm happy to answer any questions about the waivers. You all had the opportunity to read them. Try to keep them as short and sweet as possible. The first is the out-of-school youth percentage waiver. Right now, WIOA funding has to focus on 75% of out-of-school youth. So for whatever reason, they are not in school. And what this will allow is flexibility to allow service providers to spend 50% of their funding on out-of-school youth and up to 50% of their funding on in-school youth. Caveat with that is they do not have to, but they can or they may. And so it allows a lot of flexibility where some of our more urban service providers may continue to provide that 75% because it works for their population. In our more rural places, especially, they now have the opportunity to spend more money on in-school youth. The ultimate goal is that instead of working with students after they drop out, our hope is that we catch them before they drop out and we're able to help them with services and programs that would benefit them. The second is in coordination with this, the first. The second waiver will allow in-school youth the opportunity to create what's called an ITA or an individualized training account. What that ITA will allow is for a student to earn dual credit or college credit at the same time as while they are in school. So through the MUS 1-2 free program, they can take 2 free classes, and then further courses can be at 50% off. And this would allow WIOA funding to actually pay for some of those. And the hope would be that we could get some students credentialed through the MUS program along with the WIOA funding, and they could possibly earn a credential at the same time as they earn their high school degree, while they aren't out of pocket anything. So there's an opportunity for that, and we would have 1 year to essentially prove that. And if it starts to work as we develop the next state plan, we could include that waiver request going forward for the next state plan in 2024 as well. So that's a little bit about both of the waivers. And I will turn it back over to you. Should there be any questions, Chair Hotbob, and happy to answer any, and we can then vote on them.
Okay. Do we have any questions, discussion, or comments for Wes on the waivers?
I have one, if I could, Chair. When it comes to the timing, I know the federal government gives us a window. When would Montana hear back at the earliest?
I don't have a direct answer to that. My hope would be that when the U.S. Department of Labor comes in May, they will be here during our SWIB meeting in May, that we will have an answer by then, or at least a direction by then of what the answer may be. And Eva, our federal program officer, is aware of that as well and is hoping to get that too. So that's why we're voting on it during the executive committee meeting, because I didn't want to wait until May, because this would go into effect for the starting fiscal year 23, so starting in July. And there was something else I was going to mention about that. With the vote, that's the other piece I just want to also make clear. Anytime the executive committee votes on anything, the full board must also vote to affirm that. And so this will be brought back up again in May. And hopefully if you all approve this, the full board will also approve it come May as well.
Okay, and then one more question, since we're in the season of legislature, follow up, please. When it comes to the data points, I know, with the overlay and great government with the agencies, what exact data points for believability are we seeking? Do we have an idea of what those are?
Well, I think for the first waiver, which is the out of school percentage, I think what that would do is hopefully play into the graduation rates in general, but I don't know that we have an exact method to judge that or to quantify that, because it's kind of obscure. It doesn't give a specific endpoint. With the other waiver, that's an easy one, because if students actually utilize the funding, create those ITA accounts, we will have data behind it. My guess, as I'm thinking about this question out loud, would be that based on however many students utilize it, and if we see an increase from in-school youth utilizing those ITAs, we will then see a direct correlation between the first waiver and the second waiver, and that may be a good data point as well. But no, otherwise, what we had put in the waiver request, as you most likely saw, was graduation rates, and our hope is that would increase, especially in our rural populations, where that we would probably see the majority. To that point, actually, and these are points in general with our measurable skills gains and our employment second quarter, our median earnings, our credential attainment. Our hope is to also see those. So I guess to your point, there is more, because we do have a way to measure that through our systems and through our program funding opportunities. And why we're requesting this waiver also is because those numbers have always been below where they should be, and we have never met those targets. I shouldn't say never, we have not met those targets in years. And so our hope is that we start to see an incremental increase in those targets as well to meet our measurable skills gains numbers, and what we negotiated with the Department of Labor, so that we can start to see some increases. So those are also targets, and those are found on page 3 where we are for the year. And if you all wanted past years, we can get those to you there in the past state plan as well.
Thank you. I believe that the more, not the quantity of data, but the quality of the data points that we can put in a trend can really put more believability into this partnership and extend it out even more. So also historically, is there anything that the Department of Labor has extended besides a 50-50? Because
That's the lowest we can
that's
go.
the lowest.
Yep. Is that your question?
Yes.
Yeah, you can't go flip it completely.
Right.
And in WIA, the former WIOA,
Mhm.
it was 50-50, and then they went to 75 for out of school, but you can't go below that. So, so the waiver, the only opportunity with the waiver is to get it to 50-50.
I think it's incumbent upon not just the executive board here, but the entire board to really look to see what does it mean regionally, the low hanging fruit of bringing up that data point and target that so we can show success quickly and then move it into a manner of more of a long-term sustainability with that. And I'd be more than happy to see what data we've got in order to ensure that success immediately.
Sure. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions or discussion on the waivers? Seeing them, take these on the agenda, we've got them separated. So the first one, could we get a motion regarding the out-of-school youth percentage waiver request? Approve, deny, or take?
I'll make that
This is
motion.
Dean Bentley. I'll second that.
Thanks, Dean. Got a motion to approve the out-of-school youth percentage waiver request. Do we have any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign.
Sounded like chipmunks almost.
Yeah. Motion passes. Second on the list, could we get a motion regarding the ITA or in of school youth waiver request?
That's a typo, sorry. In school youth.
Stumbled on.
I'll make that
This is-
motion.
Thanks,
There we go.
Dean, are you
And,
for the
and this
second?
is Dean. I'll be there for a second. Thank you.
Awesome.
I can't get off mute. I can't get off mute fast enough.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve the second waiver, the ITA for in-school youth. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. The motion passes. Thank you. The next section is really kind of meant to be just a broad discussion, and we've had some meetings recently as of yesterday that I think will help kind of shape this next topic. Wes, do you want to start on the NGA? I don't
Sure.
want to step on you.
So Paul was able to attend his first Chairs Association meeting with the National Governors Association in February. That's in coordination with the governors meetings as well as with the National State Workforce Board Directors. And we had great conversations. Paul was able to get connected to some of the other board chairs around the country. Through those conversations there, and that's no surprise, there's a lot more that we could do as a board to be influential. My ultimate goal is also that I am not leading the board as much as I am carrying out the directives of you all. That's what the board is for, and that's the that's why it exists, is to carry out the some of the directives and the hope of the State Workforce Board from around our state. So Paul was able to get to know some of them, has some new ideas. One of the ideas that is implemented in a number of states is moving the board away from policy as much and more strategy to hopefully impact and advise the governor's office on statewide policy for workforce and economic development. With that, a lot of states utilize their state workforce board. It's either housed in or highly utilized at the Department of Commerce. And we also have a statutory requirement, and that's included in the information that I sent as well, that we work with the Department of Commerce. And since the reorganization of the board, we have not had that carried out. So Paul and I did meet with Director Osterman yesterday and have some potential ideas, but essentially utilizing the board more of a business development and business attraction tool in the toolbox of Director Osterman, so that when organizations want to come to Montana, that there is information that can either be presented and provided by the SWIB and or individuals that could be utilized to help with that business recruitment, to show what happens within the state of Montana on real life examples. In addition, one of the other documents that I sent out was this levers document, how governors execute their vision for workforce development. It's quite a read, but it gives a really good kind of brief overview of WIOA and ways that governors, and by that, the extension of the governors through cabinet level officers and other elected officials in the state, can utilize WIOA funding and WIOA services to better implement their goals. So that's kind of a broad overview, and then I'll turn it over to Chair.
Thanks, Wes. Wes said this is my first meeting. I appreciate Laurie and Barb allowing me to go to the meeting. I'll just be honest on a couple of points. When I got there, first day I had this sense that Montana is significantly behind the other states. I actually sent an email to Laurie and Barb, just kind of summarizing the meetings, and then it dawned on me that really it was a terminology misunderstanding on my point to a great extent. I use the word perfunctory or policy driven as that's kind of the view of how I viewed the SWIB's role since I've been on the board. We've really been a group that's been very focused on WIOA policy administration, approval of policies, amendments to policies. And the rest of the board chairs were using a different term for the same thing. So it became really clear that we're not alone. There's probably more state workforce boards that are in our position than are in the more strategic role that would be what we'd strive to get to. So I felt better when I understood that we were saying the same thing using different terminology. That said, it was really a stark example of the difference. North Dakota, our neighbor to the east, they fall in the category of being highly strategic. I spent a fair bit of time with their board chair, and with Wes's counterpart, their workforce director. They lay out about 15 strategic ideas for their governor every year. And it winds up getting baked into his budget and his thought process throughout the year. So they're sort of in a very unique space, along with a couple other states like Delaware and Iowa. I think it was pretty clear is it New Hampshire, because that governor popped in and gave a talk about his programs, and they were very much aligned with their SWIB director. And then there's kind of everybody else. So I felt better, but I think we've got a real opportunity to move in that direction. And I sense from our meeting last year in Bozeman, as a board, you're all anxious to be in that place. So I'm really encouraged by that. I think that's the first step, and you're all there. We met yesterday with Laurie and Barb, had the opportunity to spend some time talking about, again, how do we move more into this strategic position. And as Wes said, we also met with Scott Osterman and Commerce, and some of the states, they look at business recruitment, attraction, business development, the term you want to call it. They look at it as the SWIB as an integral part of bringing to the table the issues related to workforce from a solutions perspective as companies or as states are looking to attract these businesses. And that's something that I think we have the ability to offer the Department of Commerce. Mr. Osterman was very open to the idea of having someone from Commerce serving on a committee with us. And I'm kind of stepping ahead. This all kind of morphs together. I apologize. I'll get more specific to that committee, but he's open to that idea. the other thing that came out of the discussion in Washington, and I thought it was a really interesting idea, and I thought of you, Adam, and you, David, from a contractor's perspective. Iowa gave a presentation and talked about they've got 150 students in 35 different high school apprenticeship programs. And I thought, what a wonderful way to catch these students at a very early age. And Wes, you mentioned dropouts, potentially a way to solve a dropout problem for some of these students that are looking for a path that might provide meaning to education at a younger age. And I thought, what a terrific way to provide on-the-job training in the summer if you have if students in these tracks for companies like you, Adam, and David, for your association members as well. But that's something that I'd like to explore a little further with the board, and obviously with OPI superintendent, as it touches on the K-12 system. Is that something that might have a fit in Montana? Would it play into the overall broader goal of apprenticeships? Can we get that industry buy-in and tie to provide employment pathways? Commerce was the second thing. Is there a way that the SWIB can be more meaningful in the eyes of business attraction? In addition to meeting with Commerce yesterday, I also had a visit with Todd O'Hare at the chamber, and I am kind of moving into the committee structure. With regard to a committee that would involve Commerce, Commerce was open to sitting on that committee. Todd O'Hare was also, with the state chamber, was open to sitting on that as well. And Todd made the comment, he said, could the chamber utilize the SWIB in a way? I mean, is there a way that committee could also help us with business attraction? And at the end of the day, it would be good for Montana if we can bring these companies in. I think everybody's got the same mission and goals to try to bring companies in with the goal of bringing jobs that compensate employees at $50,000 or greater. So I think there's these opportunities to tie the SWIB tighter with industry across Montana. Obviously, we've got a strong industry voice on the board. When we first formed committees, it really started in Bozeman last summer. We were searching for that strategic path, not really sure what that was going to be. And I made the comment to both Laurie and Wes, I'm not opposed, we've got these committees, but if we need to recalibrate and find committees that are more I guess, meaningful to the strategic mission, let's recalibrate and let's find those. And this might be one of those that we can use to show value, because frankly, we're in a position of the SWIB, and this is my opinion, with, let's say, both Commerce and even in the governor's office, that historically we've been a policy-driven board. We've not been a strategic board. So I think we've got to show some value, and it's going to be up to us to show that value to really help them think of the SWIB in terms of a more strategic partner, as opposed to a policy-driven requirement of that legislation. So I guess at the main meeting, I would like to talk more about committees, but I guess for discussion, I'd like to hear everybody's thoughts on this, maybe taking the legislative committee that was really thought when we built that committee, the thought was really, is this a committee that can interface with the governor's office from a policy perspective, helping workforce related legislation? I don't know as that's really served the purpose that, and it just, those are two different pathways, but is this one where we could be more meaningful to the eyes of Commerce, the governor's office, and really industry in the state, to form this, I'll just call it a business development committee that would have a member of Commerce, a member of the chamber. We'd have members of that legislative board, and then depending on what opportunities at hand, whether it's from Commerce or the chamber, we could populate that committee on a very fluid basis with industry representation that's more germane to the topic at hand. So if a construction company or an equipment company were coming in, Adam, obviously you and David would be front and center on that committee. If we had a company that wanted to build transformers, Dean, I'm looking at you now that you're back on the screen, you'd jump on that committee, but it would allow us to mix and match to really provide a role and hopefully, provide the labor side of the value proposition to these companies. I'll quit talking and just throw it out there for everyone's perspective.
Well, Chair, I appreciate the efforts you've gone to get this board moving in this direction. I think, over the years that we've been involved with this, I do think that our overall SWIB board has been really a meeting the check marks, policy driven, like you say. We've been set up to meet the check marks, and I do feel that that this would be a great step forward to actually moving the needle on workforce development. So appreciate it.
Perfect. Thank you, Dean.
Yeah, I would echo Dean's comments. I'd also maybe ask if we should think about using this tech hub initiative that commerce and the state and the education have been working on with North Dakota as a launching point for some of those efforts as we look at tech innovation in the industries across the state that are hoping to lure this new hub to the region. It seems like it was a great place for us to be involved.
Yeah. Thanks, Adam. I agree. That's a really exciting opportunity. If as I understand, it's $10 billion that's up for grabs, and partnering to Montana, North Dakota.
It would be good at our meeting in May to maybe have either Mary Craggle or someone who's Joe come and talk to our group at the meeting about what that RFP may be looking like, because by May we could have something tangible to be responding to.
Yeah. Good point. Thank you.
Is there anything in the authorization of SWIB that is going to hinder, that is going to cause a problem?
Mm-mm. No, if anything, to Chair Hopfob's point, and what David Smith had hoped, kind of the legislative committee, there are hindrances to that more than there are to this, because we can't lobby unless the full board votes on items to lobby on behalf of. So to this point, working with Commerce, being a part of that conversation, with direction from Commissioner Esau for the labor side of things. And no, we're statutorily actually required to work with Commerce, and we're currently not. So this will not only be not a hindrance, but carrying out what our requirement actually is.
So on that question, is it the SWIB being moved to Commerce? It would be a stronger partnership is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. We're also statutorily tied to labor.
Right.
And I hope that Commissioner Esau doesn't kick us out of labor. But no, that's not the plan. It's just to be a leveraging tool in the toolbox of Director Osterman, with more direct access to the opportunities that the SWIB could benefit from, and the funding opportunities that come from all of the title programs. How could they be more influential with that business recruitment as well?
So I really appreciate, Chair, that you're looking at the strategic opportunities that we have. People move in and off boards. And I think that, it's incumbent upon the board to have really solid goal. And I'll come back to the data, the metric of what that success looks at. Because you have that fluidity, your goal sometime is in peril. And the stability of having it in more than one agency will help. The stability of having it with an outside entity like the chamber will help within that. Is there anything federally that's going to cause a problem?
Not that I can see, no. And I think it depends on what opportunities come about, but with now my time and understanding what the board can, should, and should not be involved with, I don't see an issue. And again, this is how a lot of states have moved before we are now moving. And so there are some templates out there to also utilize, and some resources to lean on should we need them. And North Dakota being one of them, which is a perfect opportunity, along with some other states that are heavily involved with their Commerce Department, but not housed within their Commerce Department. So
I think to put a little more color on the concept, and this may help Superintendent, and I agree. We having goals that are measurable so that we can show value, I think are really key, because you're right, it's a fluid board, and it's a board we don't control. It's controlled by the governor and his appointments at his discretion. One of the things we talked about in June of last year is, and Scott Oshman brought this up yesterday, and it reminded me of that discussion. And we talked about kind of synthesizing and making a list of all the things going on. I told Wes about 5 months ago, I feel like we're sitting in a room and things are just flying by on each side of our head. And it's all these workforce things that are happening around the state, but they're not all kind of pulled together. They're just kind of happening. And so as we think about whether it's Accelerate Montana, Build Montana as well, how do we have a comprehensive list of all the things that are happening across the state related to workforce? I mean, he used the word clearinghouse. We sort of talked about it in June as a list of all the things, but it really is a clearinghouse where, if there's a great thing happening in, say, Stevensville, how can we replicate that in Plentywood? Instead of reinventing the wheel, is there a model that can plug and play? We're such a big state. And if we had that list as one from a business development perspective, that's another tool in the toolbox that, again, as Wes said, it's a tool. So I don't see this committee getting in the way. It's not a turf thing where we're inserting ourselves in the business development process. It's really a resource for commerce. It's a resource for the chamber related to workforce that can assist with that objective. So if we had that list of opportunities for workforce development, workforce solutions, it would really be an integral part of that toolbox to assist in I think they recently talked to a company from Norway looking to come to Montana, or competing to get into Montana. How can we provide that opportunity to show them that from a workforce perspective, we've got processes and we've got the ability to meet their needs.
And to be clear, and for the fairness to Commissioner Esau, that does happen, and folks from Department of Labor are present and available, and they were with this last organization, but this would just be possibly even more of a resource in a different capacity, from a state level employee to a private organizations to kind of niche markets or different information for funding programs. So
that's a good point, Wes. I mean, there's also programmatically a list of things based on, what business you are, what fits in terms of what's there. This may provide, a resource to bring more business perspective to the table as well with the broader coalition of partners.
did you have a comment, Commissioner Esau?
Sorry. Of course, somebody just knocked on our door. Yeah, so the dogs are barking, so I apologize for that. But yeah, no. I really like the direction you guys want to go. I think, as you know, the board has been underutilized in the past, and I think more of a rubber stamp for the department, and that is not the direction we'd like to see moving forward. So I think, partnering with Commerce, because obviously Commerce and DLI have the same goals: jobs over 50,000, strong economy. How do we get there? So we're not competing in any way. I want to be able to partner with them, partner with OPI. Like, how do we get towards those goals, which are getting employees, which we need, whether they're from high schools or corrections, or where are we getting that pot of people, and then attracting businesses, retaining businesses. And I think as a board, you offer so much more expertise. Obviously, we can provide information on programs and all of that, but that's where we're limited. We have certain things we can do, and you're the true experts in the field.
Thank you, Commissioner. And you just made a comment that really touches on another pillar that I wanted to mention today, and that's corrections and justice involved people. That, is that an area that we need to put more focus on as well, in terms of training and providing access to the workforce, and as well as our Native American population that has significantly higher than average unemployment rates across the state of Montana. Are those maybe two areas that we can better focus on as a SWIB board to help engage those folks in a more meaningful way into the workforce?
Yeah, and I feel like there's been a lot of talk between DLI and corrections, but I don't feel like we've ever really gotten somewhere. I mean, we've been trying to help get them some funding for rapid retraining, but it wasn't successful. But I mean, we do clearly want to partner with them. So I'm just not sure exactly what we do to get it over the hump.
Okay.
So this is an adult ed discussion, and that's where WIOA, of course, comes into play, and DOC is one of the providers that we have. We have a challenge with internet. We have right now a challenge with the GED or the HiSET company, PSI. We haven't been able to get any certificates since October through them. And we are thinking of moving to having two providers rather than having it just in the hands of one. And so if you can't show that you've got a certificate, that you've passed it successfully, and this is outside of corrections, but there's a broadband issue, there's an issue of, how do I say, security when it comes to the internet and how the test and education is done. We are lacking teachers all the way across our state. So you would want to have a teacher that's qualified within DOC in order to put the adult education forward. So, but I think one of the things that I'd like to do, and hey, I'm a K-12 teacher, right? So let's celebrate, and maybe you put milestones in of what celebration is. When my husband was on the state chamber, there's a seal that you get. Yes, you have to pay to become a member. Yes, you become this, but you have a certificate. You have a thing you can stick in your window that you are part of this group. And if we want to elevate, this board into that framework, I'm sure some states have done that. We've copied from Ohio a lot in education and military and how they work with families. I'm sure there's something to replicate out there to honor a member that uses SWIB board moving forward in a pizza party celebration type of a thing.
That's a good point.
And what I might also offer, just what we do in our agency, not that you want to have it constrained too small, but you have a great executive committee here, but quite possibly a steering committee, or even under your leadership, Wes, to be able to really bring something to the full board on, opportunity. And the more we delay, the more we wait, time is going to pass between us, and there won't be any fruit gathering of that low hanging. So I would try to get something as soon as possible.
Hopefully that's where we're headed. It's been work in progress.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. And I'll supply the pizza.
Any further committee discussion? Move on.
David Smith may have to take off, so if he had any other question, or if he had any comments or wanted to provide anything, that would be great. We do appreciate him popping in, though.
I do appreciate the direction that the conversations are going. Thank you. I like it.
Good. Thanks, David. Wes, do you want to take over the one-stop certification process?
Sure. Wanted to just update you all. The one-stop certification process is a requirement of WIOA. It has been a cumbersome process in the past. Through the help of Jane Demaray, our policy analyst, she's helped streamline this process a lot. So I just wanted to share with you all, we will be sending this letter out at the end of this week. The letter, I mean, is in the attachments. indicating to our job service locations that we will be recertifying them. So recertifying the programs that they offer, how they offer those programs, whether they're in-house or whether they do warm handoffs to whatever extent, or if they don't, and needing to know that information. We also have to recertify our comprehensive center in the state. That is currently Great Falls. We're waiting on final approval from the US Department of Labor. We've always had kind of a handshake agreement that we only had to have one certified comprehensive center, even though we have 2 local areas. But for funding and cost, we have had an agreement that there's just one, and that's been in Great Falls. So we're waiting on final approval for that, and hopefully that will continue that way. But I just wanted to provide this to you all. One of the differences from years past that we did offer, before it was literally a checkbox. So we were literally checking the boxes. Do you have this? And it was either a yes or they didn't fill out that portion of the form. And what we worked together to develop is that through these, we will not only determine what type of access they have in-house for these programs, but also looking to see if we can assist them in any way. Through the WEO estate plan, we're supposed to look at continuous improvement, and checking boxes is not continuous improvement, that is checking boxes. And so how can we provide them assistance with different types of programming? And how can we also provide them with possible technical assistance, or that they may not have some of the resources necessary? How do we make sure they get those resources? And so they're communicative otherwise, but this is just a little bit more of quantitative and qualitative data that we can put together. And then hopefully this will all feed into the next state plan as well, because we'll have a little bit more information from our one-stop centers. So this is going out at the end of the week. It will have through April. They will have through April to complete it. I'll be going to Great Falls to do the comprehensive myself, but they will get it as well. And then we'll be able to report back in May some of the findings that we have learned, and hopefully get all of our affiliate and our comprehensive center recertified. Great.
Next, May SWIB meeting here in Helen.
So some of the agenda items, Adam, thank you, talking about the RFP status. I will be happy to look into that. I'll work with Barb to determine what the best route forward is for that, to see if somebody could present. Some of the other pieces, we've been doing trainings, title trainings, and it is Voc Rehab's turn for Title IV this go around. And so they will be doing a training much like the others. And what I've asked Chanda and her team to do is similar to what Ryan Van Valgoyen provided, was the outcomes of those programs and what they do. And that seemed to be maybe the most effective route to do a training. And then these are also helpful for others as we get new board members, and or as we have new employees, even at DLI, they're helpful to share with what the programs do. So we will have that training. In addition, we will have a panel on Voc Rehab that will share some of the successes of utilizing Voc Rehab as another opportunity for employment. And so we're working on that with Chanda's team. We have one of the requests from Commissioner Mary Armstrong out of Valley County was to have more data about job service locations. And so thanks to the economics team here at DLI, they're putting together a data dashboard for SWIB members that will be found on the SWIB site. And we'll also be able to link some other dashboards that already exist. So you all can go to one place, hopefully, for the data that most affects the board. And I'll be linking to OPI's already implemented data dashboard, DLI's already implemented data dashboards, but what this will be is a little bit more focused on the job service locations themselves. So you can look at what people are going to them for, what trends look like, get a perspective of where the needs are a little bit more. And so hopefully we'll be able to have that rolled out by May. They are ready to get that all finalized this week. We'll be doing a financial update. I need to reach out to Build Montana to see, that was a request from the past as well to present. And then we will vote on youth waiver and start the conversation about the state planning process for WEOA State Plan 2024. We have no idea what that looks like, which is always fun because they don't tell us what we need until the day we need it. But hopefully that will be out by October. But all of these items that we're building and working on will hopefully provide us with a good structure for what the state plan contents will be. And so those are some of the pieces that we will be having at the board meeting. I did just get confirmation on Monday. So it'll be going out in an email to you all along with a hotel request. It will be housed at State Fund in their boardroom here in Helena, because the U.S. Department of Labor will be here to visit us as well. My goal was to not have these meetings in Helena, but because of the U.S. Department of Labor visit, that's where it is. So I would love to entertain any other thoughts, any other topics that you'd like to see for the May meeting. And just let me know what those are either now or email me. Let me know in the next week or two if there's anything in particular that you think would benefit the board in general, either presentation or a request for information.
Perfect. Any further discussion on that last block?
Just one thing, I know when I was in DC just recently and going to my regulator at the Department of Ed, we had asks of them. Are we going to make any asks specifically besides the waiver of the Department of Labor?
Not that I'm aware of. They're doing a review of some other programs while they're here, the youth program being one of them, financial being one of them. But I don't have an ask except for the waivers.
Are we showcasing anything special to Montana? So I know Secretary Cardona is excited about our tribal work, what we do with displaced youth regarding not just WIOA, but those that aren't in school or aren't engaged in school. So are we giving them any good things, not just mugs, not with our Great Seal of Montana on it, but are we showcasing Montana throughout that meeting?
So their request was from the State Workforce Board, was that they just wanted to be present at a board meeting. So they didn't want anything unique or different. They just wanted to be present at a board meeting. Because they're training one of their new folks. They will have a higher level official here, and then our federal program officer, and then the financial compliance person who actually lives in Montana. So it's not anything to that extent.
It's not a secretary or undersecretary or anybody coming.
It's a division or a division administrator essentially from the regional level.
Got it.
So I don't know what the programmatic folks are doing because they're meeting with them the rest of the week, and they're doing a review of our youth programs. So I'm not fully aware of what else. I know they'll be in this room the whole week because they'll be doing some auditing and some reviews and things. But otherwise, no. So if there is something that you have in mind or that you would like to see.
I just wanted to ask. I didn't know what echelon we were getting.
Yeah. Regular folks, I guess.
Regular folks.
Regular folks
may not be on, or the commissioner may not be on here, but yeah, it's always fun to have them into the state. Right. So I had asked when I was out in DC, I'd asked for one, and it was a political, not a institutional staff member, and I got 5 in the room, and they never told me. So you just never know what you get.
Sure.
And I just want to make sure that we shine.
Yep.
And I think
having them just in Montana and having them here, we will shine and they see us in a positive light. Although our youth program, we need to do some change, and that's what hopefully we can show them, that we've not only said we need to change our youth program, but now we're taking steps to effectively change our youth program and outcomes for our students in Montana and clients in all the other programs.
Excellent.
And Superintendent Arson, before we have the final public comment request, you would ask about an update on
career coaches. Yes, and I don't know, Wes, if you had an opportunity to send it out.
I didn't yet, no, but I will be happy to.
If you would, it's not to take any more longer of the meeting by any means, but we had quite a interesting group of individuals. These career coaches were using our COVID-related money to be able to expand between a school counselor and a individual that is from the Department of Labor in a region for that low-hanging fruit. And we had almost 40 individuals that sought this position. So that's a good news, right? Because I know back a year ago, it was really hard to find anybody. But what we're looking at are people that are retiring from public education or post-secondary education in order to see how they can enhance what they already know into a private sector. So it's quite interesting to see who we are looking at and wanting to make sure that, you know, we do get that win up front. So we're looking at Central Montana, so Great Falls, Winifred, Fergus County, anything along the High Line area in that triangle look to be able to put them. We are remote workers, and I believe the network that we're going to build in this is really going to enhance youth. And I think it's taking it off the plate. What we have heard from our school administrators and our rural schools, even tribal schools, they have so much to work with. They can't do this next step. So having somebody in that is an educator that recognizes school and recognizes future of what that investment of school is what this career coach is. We are, I don't know if you met Alabama when you were there in DC, but Alabama, we did send a contingency. I didn't have anybody from our office go, but we have hired an entity from Alabama that has worked in this world. And every single high school has got a work-based learning career coach in Alabama. We are only offering 10 at this time because of the constraint of the dollar. But gathering great data, good partnership, I believe, with the department. And it's the tool of success that I want to make sure. So if a change of tool is used here at the department that these people don't recognize, that's going to cause some sort of a delay. So we need to see what tool the department is using, and if Commerce has a tool so that we can better put more in the toolbox for these entities. But the excitement is very large that the state is doing something to heal not just graduation, but to heal what happens between. The other thing I want to add that's a little bit different, but CTSOs are our FFA. They are our FCCLA. They are business officials. They're HOSA with health and all of that. Those kids are already there. That's low-hanging fruit. We need to make sure that that connection of CTSO, which has an investment of state dollar traditionally, and the legislature is also going to add more to it, plus a large reporting piece to it. That is low-hanging fruit to be able to help WIOA in any increasing that youth perspective of what's the next step in their life. So really excited. Please pass those documents to this group. If you could also have it on the agenda, we'll have Mary Heller, who is leading these career coaches, present for a very short period of time, if you allow. So we're excited and we're marching forward.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions or discussion? Superintendent Arson? Okay, thank you again.
Time for recess.
The one last request, last but not least, last request for public comment. Hearing none, thank you all for your time today, and especially thank you to Commissioner Esau, John, and Barb, and Scott Osterman, who's not on the call, but this was a really productive couple days, and Helen and I really appreciate all of your time and their time as well over the last couple days, and look forward to see you all in May, right back here in great town of Helena. I don't know what's going on at the Capitol, but maybe that'll be done by then and we can get parking. It's perfect. Thank you. Thank you all.
Great job, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks, Les.
See ya.
27 days.